Okay, let's get to the Layla sessions. When did that start? What was the you got the call from somebody? Hey, we're going to come down and record an album. Tell me how it started.
The way I recall it is a long time ago, but the way I recall it, we were sitting in the control room in Studio B at Criteria, and we were working on someone's record, and I don't remember who exactly it was, but Eric Clapton called Tom and said that he wanted to start the next record with Tom, and Tom said, well, gee, that's great. Let's plan on doing it in Miami, because that's where our base is set up at the moment. And Eric was excited about coming to Miami and working in Miami. And this band showed up, which was Carl Radle and Jim Gordon, Bobby Whitlock, and, of course, Eric Clapton. And we set up in Studio B in a very unique way, which we'll detail quickly for you. But anyway, it was set up without the addition of Duane Allman. In fact, the first, Layla, as you know, is a double album. The first 3 or 4 songs on the album are without Duane. First 3 songs are without Duane. So Duane came into the picture shortly thereafter, and the way that happened was the Allmans were ironically playing a show in Miami at the High Life Fronton, as my memory tells me, and we all from the studio, from the Allman session, from the Clapton session, went out to see, the show. And when the show was over, kind of like hanging around backstage, it was time to leave, and we all came back to the studio to go to work. And in tow came the Allmans. Not just Duane, but the Allmans. But they were there, but they weren't part of the session. There was a great admiration and respect between Eric Clapton and Duane Allman. They both knew each other's musical abilities in playing, but hadn't worked together yet. So this was an opportunity for them to get in and kind of just jam. And that's basically the way all of the records of those times were, all the ones we've been involved with were made. We would just jam. Everybody would sit in the studio and play for hours and days and weeks, and it would just make beautiful music together. Not all the time, but ultimately it would come out that way. And as soon as Duane and Eric started to play, there was just this magical, interaction. Duane playing slide and Eric playing, and it was just a really incredible thing. And even, the sort of symmetry had worked out so well, where Duane would be playing, his gold top Les Paul, and Eric would be playing his Strat, and the two sounds would complement and blend with each other, but they weren't the same sounds, they were different sounds. So all of these pieces just sort of fit together correctly. And the rest is history. Layla was made. But, the uniqueness of that session, the setup, everybody was playing live. And we created an environment where they could all play live in the studio. Studio B, as you might recall, at Criteria was not a big room, but it was the right room. It was an amazing studio, the best studio acoustically we've ever been involved in anywhere in the world. It just worked. It was a magical space. And what we did is we set up the piano, the grand piano, along the side wall with Jim Gordon's drums in a drum booth that we had built. And Eric and Duane, we had sat alongside of the piano where the lid would open up. Their backs were to the piano. And Jimmy and Carl Radle was behind that. But the idea there was that we didn't have really exotic cue systems in those days. So what we did is we set the piano up with moving quilts. We put the mics in the piano, closed the lid, and we took Champ amps, little Fender Champs, and we set the Champs up on top of the piano lid so that
they were ear level.
When Duane and Eric were sitting with their backs to the piano, their little Champs were basically like monitors in their ears. So they could hear each other, but they weren't real loud amps. These amps weren't, giant Marshalls putting out all the sound. So we were able to mic the piano, mic the amps, and record everything live and still have a semblance of control over the record because everybody's playing live. It worked. And, there's been articles written, and we've discussed it for forever, about the guitar sounds on Layla are so unique and so special. And the reality of it is that they were recorded through Champ amps. Very unique.
Well, you know, sound-wise, the room, you were talking about the room having great sound. It had egg crates on the walls and fabric and stuff still, right?
Mac built these, when he built the room, he put these cylindrical diffusers, polycylindrical diffusers in there. And he saw it in a magazine or whatever. He just made what he saw. But whatever it was, they worked. It was a high ceiling. I think it was like 20 feet.
Yeah, it was a big high ceiling.
But there wasn't. It was you know, it was fiberglass in between these cylinders.
There were polycylindrical diffusers, which are like half curves off the wall, and then there were these what we call retingers, which were fiberglass bats with movable wood slats that you could adjust.
Yeah, we never moved them.
We never moved them. No. That was a bunch of crap. But the room worked, and it was amazing, and you know, it was just one of those things where it was just the right, it was, everything in that room came out right. None of it was mathematically planned or calculated. It was just, in all studios, you have to get lucky. You know, you build a room, and then you have to adjust the acoustics sometimes to make it correct, no matter how much mathematical formulas you have available. Now, of course, everything's done on computer. You still have to adjust it. But that room, the best room ever.
It just worked.
Sounds good. Now, you gave us an outline of the setup. Give us an outline of the production team, the producers, the engineers. Who were the crew that worked on this session? Start with Tom.
We all worked like a family. So, you know, we could be, you know, we would do like a tag team. One day it would be me, one day it would be Ron, one day it was Carl Richardson, one day it was Chuck Kirkpatrick. Then sometimes, you know, we would take somebody in another room and do an overdub, so some other engineer would work on that. You know, one of the four of us would do that. Tom Dad was obviously the producer at the time. And kind of how that happened. I mean, it was you know, it was a group effort.
The record was made over, you know, a period of time, and primarily Howard and I would, as we always worked together as a tag team, we held the responsibility of the majority of the record, from the onset of the record to the end of the mixing. Although what Howard's saying was that there were times where mostly it would be Chuck Kirkpatrick or Carl Richardson taking a day or two, or even working in another room with one of the players. Even Mac Ehrman got engineering credits. He did some work on that record. But Carl or Chuck were very capable of going in and you know, taking one of the reels of tape into another room and working like for a while with Eric Clapton while we were working with you know, Duane Allman or whatever the case may be. It was a way of getting multitasking, if you will, and using all the people that were capable of making this record such a great thing.
Well, it definitely had to be a team effort. There was so much going on, it seemed.
You know, so much of it was, you have to remember that we only had 16 track during that session. And, you know, there's just such a plethora of guitar parts and keyboard parts and vocal parts. So much of the planning of the engineering status was, oh, well, we can overdub a tambourine over here on the kick drum track because we don't need the kick drum playing during this section. And, you know, it's that, all that.
You might have 3 or 4 things on one track.
You know, you got a vocal track. Right. That's also a lead guitar track. That's also a bass overdub. You know, all happening at different places at different times during a session, during the song. So it required a lot of thought and planning, as well as making the mixing more complicated, because what is labeled as the guitar track, maybe actually at this part of the song is the background track, you know, vocal track or whatever. With 16 track, you really had to plan out.
Yeah, we obviously had no automation, so you had to remember what was where, when, and that's how we kind of got through it. And especially that's why when there was 2 of us, or even 3 of us sometimes with Tommy, we could, you know, that's how we pulled the fixes off.
But it was an amazing time. You know, Ahmed would fly in and visit with Eric, and, you know, I remember George Harrison calling, you know, on the telephone, you know, at 1 million in the morning, and, you know, just, you know, Eric hanging out talking to George, and, you know, I mean, it's just, those things are just special moments in your life that you kind of just live with forever, and you're just so, you look back on it and you go, wow, it was just such a whirlwind of stuff going on, you know. I mean, just having the opportunity to work with Dwayne Allman would be just special enough, and now you put him in that environment, it's hard to really comprehend the magnitude of it all.